So, we started off with, basically, my indeed involves having multiple people working on a single story, or at the very least a basic outline of a story. Because I cannot imagine what madness will be created when you have three screwed up minds working on a single idea. And then
First, there were three.
three...
Okay, the crap. Never mind.
Continue? Are we good?
Should
Yeah,
we
we're
stop?
Okay. Tristan, start over.
First, there were three.
Three magical little fairies named Flimsy, Flirty, and XX Death Knight 1994 XX Swag, who were all out on their luck.
Flimsy said, "What the fuck?" XX Death Knight 1994 XX Swag said, "I think we're stuck." In a pit of quicksand, they found themselves surrounded by ravenous, scurrying forest creatures with blood in their eyes.
Flirty said, "Guys, we do not stand a chance against these powerful beasts, and it is their mating season." Both Flimsy and Flirty quickly stripped off their tops and hoped that the beast would save them from the horrible fate of suffocating. The price of anal rape was well worth the reward. But XS Death Knight 1994 XX Swag said with a hoarse and emotional voice,
"Are you happy? You fucking beasts. Just get on with it. Get over here and take them." The forest creatures were insulted by his harsh tone, and thus XX Death Knight 1994 XX Swag was greeted with the most intense and powerful anal rape imaginable, while Flimsy and Flirty were rescued and escorted away from the pit.
"Poor XX Death Knight 1994 XX Swag. His anus would never be the same after the atrocities it suffered on that fateful evening of blood, sweat, and tears. Flimsy and Flirty were not strong enough to save XX Death Knight 1994 XX Swag by themselves. Thankfully, from the shadows, a lone hero burst into action, and his name was
Stone Peterson the Muff Diver, or Stony Pete as he came to be known amongst his online gaming communities. You see, quicksand did not sit well with Stony. One early morning in his childhood, while he was exploring the jungles with his father Dick Cheney Peterson, Stony came across a pit which looked like one of his playground sandboxes. As he was about to examine the pit closer, he felt a shooting pain in his leg. He realized he had been shot. "I'm sorry, son, I thought you were a quail," called his father. Ever since then, Stony has never voluntarily encountered quicksand. Because of this hero's unfortunate past, XX Death Knight 1994 XX Swag was sadly left to sink and die with sand in his ass. It's like when you get sand in your ass at the beach, except 1,000,000 times less bearable.
Thankfully, the Quickscope's gods shined down upon XX Death Knight 1994 XX, and all the sand in his anus was replaced with spiders. The Quickscope's gods has a fucked up sense of humor. As the muffled cries of the fallen fairy slowly faded into nothing, Stony Pete couldn't bear to live on this planet anymore. He took his father's hunting rifle and aimed it for his head. His final words were, "I tickled clits." And with that, his brain spilled all over Flimsy and Flirty. The two fairies looked at each other in horror, forever scarred by what they had just witnessed. The two slowly wandered out of the forest, not even sure why the fuck they were in there in the first place. They wandered over to the nearby spoiled milk bar to rest.
As the fairies sat at the bar with heavy hearts and exposed breasts, the bartender served them their chunky milk and listened to their tales of woe. First, we had awakened from the strangest fever dream after the forest wizard told us to put these strange white tablets under our tongues. Then the only thing I remember is XX Death Knight 1984 XX Swag screaming in unbelievable pleasure as if he were actually running through the field of rainbows and sugar plums for real. Then the next thing I remember, we came here to sober up, but no XX Death Knight 1994 XX Swag. The fairies began to whimper and cry as the bartender slowly backed away and gave them a nervous laugh. Sounds like, fun." He was repeatedly tapping the security call button underneath the counter. Just then, Flirty began acting very strange.
Flirty tore off the rest of her tattered clothing and jumped on the poor very lucky bartender. She began riding that milk server's dick like it was a piece of overcooked spaghetti. As the bartender just tried to decide if he left his garage door open at home, Flirty then stood up, sliding that sweaty and quite gross pencil dick out of her luscious and enchanted vagina. She reached down and took hold of his member, and then with all of her might ripped it clean off the poor server's body. As spoiled milk spilled from the server's room, it is a well-known fact that after years of consuming one's blood is replaced with spoiled milk, Flirty took the milky cock and nom-nommed on it, licking her fingers afterwards to get the last bit of sweat and milk. Flirty was a rising star in the fairy porn industry, so Flimsy was used to this behavior and went about her business doing jack fucking shit. Flimsy thought it was. Flimsy then threw a golden balloon at the screaming bartender as her and Flirty left the bar.
Wow, he's quite the catch, isn't he? Asked Flimsy. Flirty was currently piggybacking, riding ass naked on Flimsy's back. She moaned in agreement with Flimsy's previous inquiry. We need to get you to bed, Flirty. The two fairies continued down the luscious forest path toward their inner-city apartment, where they would pick up their routine nightly webcam cybersex sections and get paid the full amount the following weekend. As the sun sank lower in the sky, the weary fairies were forced to stop mid-path for the night. They decided to use Flimsy's remaining garments as shelter from weather and other such disturbances. Flimsy, lying quietly underneath her own clothing, looked over at Flirty's beautiful, sleeping body. Suddenly, images of XX Death Knight at 1994 XX Swags, Raging Cock, and Torrential flooded her mind, as these flashbacks of incredibly arousal sexual encounters with the three fairies began to make Flimsy feel as intense as Flirty had felt back at the bar. The night was still young.
Suddenly, XX Deck Knight 1994 XX Swag's zombie came back and raped the fuck out of them until they began to bleed from their sexual orifices. Then they fucking died. And that's, kids, is why you don't fuck with LSD, said the narrator. Look, Mommy, a homeless man talking to himself, said an odd-looking dipshit. Fuck off, cunt, said the mother as she 360 no-scoped her daughter away. As the camera pans out on the homeless man foaming at the mouth, the screen goes black and the words, not even twice, comes onto the screen, said Thomas H. Starr, the aspiring film director. The mistress of Hollywood looked disgusted and told him to get the fuck out of my office before I pour hot wax down your ear. Thomas left and wondered if life even had any meaning. As he walked out of the inner-city apartment building, he turned towards the enchanting forest. He saw two naked fairies sleeping underneath some tattered clothing, both of them idly touching their no-no spots. He walked over and snuggled up against Flirty's inviting body. The next morning, they awoke to Verdi giving him one hell of a BJ. The two fairies decided to take Thomas along on their adventure. Where would they head to next? They didn't know, and quite frankly, the writers had no fucking idea either.
Oh, man. I'm turning this into a comic, by the way.
Can I read it when you're done?
Of course.
Perfect.
So what'd you think?
That was perfection.
Alright, you ready to write one?
Yes.
Alright, let's go.
We're
All
writing
right.
it.
And now
Oh, dude, was I...
that was our prototype. We're moving on to the next one.